What's going on, everyone? So the Lakers have no shortage of trade rumors and speculations, right? They've been linked to pretty much every tanking team or, middle of the pack team and several various players, which is at least a good sign, right? It shows that the Lakers are doing their due diligence, that there are at least options out there that the Lakers can try to figure out and navigate. It just comes down to price, right? What are teams willing to do? Now, it probably will still take a while for the Lakers to actually complete a trade, but you never know. I mean, we could wake up tomorrow and there could be a deal. Could be a couple days from now. Hopefully, we get a deal done like before Christmas. That'd be a nice little Christmas present. But like no big blockbuster deals very likely get done until the trade deadline. Like if the Lakers were to trade Russell Westbrook at any point, probably be closer to the trade deadline when teams are more willing to, make the big moves, willing to take a little less. Because they're trying to figure out like, okay, well, we're going to tank now because we're at the bottom of the seeding still and we're at the midway point. Or, hey, we're buyers now, so let's go get some players. And, that's when the league as a whole starting to try to move around players and play the musical chairs with the players. And yes, the Lakers, based on reports from The Athletic, the Lakers are unlikely to trade Russell Westbrook, but that doesn't mean that they won't, right? See a lot of comments of people that are like, oh, the Lakers already said they won't trade Russell Westbrook. Unlikely doesn't mean that they won't do that. They're not just going to trade him to trade him. That's what the whole report is about, right? They don't want to just move Russ just for the sake of moving Russ because it makes no sense. And Russ's value hasn't really changed because all the teams that are interested in taking on Russ, they all want to unload long-term salaries or recoup Lakers assets. They don't actually want Russell Westbrook. So unless a team comes out of the woodworks that actually wants Russ or think like, hey, Russ is a guy that we could use off the bench to really kind of drive this thing. We got some guys that we're willing to unload their contracts. If it works with Russ, great. Maybe we re-sign them to a new deal. If it doesn't work, then we just let them go and we cleared off all this salary cap. Now, is that deal out there? Maybe not, probably not, but you never know. You never know what may develop tomorrow or the next day or something along those lines, right? But right now, all the teams that want Russ, they see him as a negative value because they're going to take on Russ just to buy him out. And his contract becomes more digestible for teams come the trade deadline. So that's what's likely going on with Russell Westbrook. Now, as far as what the Lakers are packaging together, we got reports today that the Lakers are basically taking Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, and then, anything of like Damian Jones, JTA, guys like that, right? But primarily, Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, and a first-round pick is what they are packaging and shopping to teams right now. So at least what that shows is the willingness to sacrifice a first-round pick if it's the right deal. They're not just going to give up a first willy-nilly, like, oh, here you go, here's a first-round pick. No, it has to have value. It has to be worth it. It has to be a deal that they feel actually makes us better and not like neutral or just slightly better. It's a deal that they have to see and go, okay, that's great, right? We already got the report that the Lakers offered a first-round protected pick to the Detroit Pistons for Bojan Bogdanovic. So we know that the Lakers have at least went and said, hey, we'll trade you Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn in a first for Bojan Bogdanovic. So again, it shows that they're willing to unload the picks because that's a big thing that, like Lakers Nation feel, F them picks, right? The Lakers, they don't need those picks. Worry about those picks 5 years from now, all this stuff. Why won't the Lakers trade the picks? All of that, all of those kind of conversations that have been going on for a while. Well, it shows that the Lakers, they don't care about trading those picks. They're willing to trade those picks. That's something that Rob Pelinka has said in the past. He said, I'll trade the picks, but it has to be worth it. I have one shot at this. I can't just trade the picks, just trade the picks, and I get some players, and it, messes up our future cap flexibility, things like that, and now we're just stuck, right? Because that's what the last thing the Lakers want. You don't want to end up doing a deal just for the sake of doing a deal, and you're worse or just as good, but now you have the same team for several years. Better to be bad 1 year than it is 4 or 5 years, and just be stuck in like mediocrity for the next however long, right? That's what the Lakers and Rob Pelinka don't want to do. They're willing to take on salary, right? They wouldn't have offered a first-round pick for Bojan Bogdanovic. So they showed, one thing that they showed with the Bojan offer is that they're willing to give up the picks and they're willing to take on salary. Because if they weren't willing to do one or the other of those, then they wouldn't have tried to get Bojan Bogdanovic, because Bojan Bogdanovic, basically, there's your salary. That's the big bulk of your salary, right? Depending on where the salary cap goes next season, maybe you have a little money left, but for the most part, you're locked up. Bojan Bogdanovic is all of your salary. And also the first round picks, they would be willing to give up a first. So then that would have left them Russell Westbrook and another first. Problem is, the Lakers have to find a team that says, you know what, we're willing to just take on the pick, right? Top 5 protected, cool. Like, are the Lakers going to be bad enough to where, it's maybe in the top 10, but it's not, but it's not top 5, but they're better than top 5, right? Like, that's what teams would very likely have to evaluate. Is it worth taking on a pick several years down the line? And that's the other issue too, is it's several years down the line. But some of these taking teams, depending on who they are, might value that, right? Because they might look at it as like, okay, if we're good around that time, right? Which I believe every tanking team looks at it and goes, okay, we're going to turn it around in the next 5 years. So if we're turned it around, well, then now that Lakers pick, if it's a good pick, well, now that's value we could use to trade to then go, get another piece that we feel that we're missing, or maybe, draft a guy to come bring into our group that can maybe take us over the top. Hopefully, a team is willing to say, okay, well, we'll take Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, and we'll take that first, and we'll unload X, Y, and Z players, right? Again, teams don't want Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn, because I see another thing. A lot of people are like, the Lakers don't have any players that teams want. Yes, they do, because teams want the salary relief. They're not looking at Patrick Beverley and going, man, Patrick Beverley is the piece that we need. They're not looking at Kendrick Nunn and going, man, Kendrick Nunn is the piece that we need. Just like Russell Westbrook, teams are looking at Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn and going, okay, that's, $22 million in cap space that we can unload. If we take on a Damian Jones or we take on a JTA as well, then we could get even more. We could get up to 25, 26, 27 million in relief that we could unload and now clear our books, get an asset in the process. That's why a team like the Knicks, that's why you hear so much conversation about the Knicks and the Lakers, because the Knicks want to unload salary. There's going to be other teams, whether it's today or it's later on down the road, there's going to be teams that go, you know what, we need to unload salary. Let's get off of a couple contracts. Maybe it's the Charlotte Hornets and, maybe a Terry Rozier or something like that. That's an option. But also a little note before we dive into the trades that could be a potential, that Patrick Beverley, if he is traded, which he's likely going to end up being waived, that Patrick Beverley has a desire to return to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't see a trade between the Minnesota Timberwolves and Patrick Beverley because I just don't think, one, Minnesota has any assets other than maybe D'Angelo Russell, but you'd have to trade Russ to do that. But outside of D'Lo, just for the scoring and the expiring contract, there's not really anyone else that one, the Lakers may go, oh, that's a guy that really makes sense to help, and two, that Minnesota would want to give up, right? So that's something else we got to keep in mind. But it's just a destination that Patrick Beverley may return to after he's bought out, and maybe he helps Minnesota, maybe he doesn't. But what Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn can potentially get you is a PJ Washington and Kelly Oubre, right? That would be perfect, right? Because the Hornets, they have to make decisions. They have to figure out what they're going to do. Are they going to pay Miles Bridges, right? If they are paying Miles Bridges, they're not really going to be able to pay PJ Washington too. I mean, they can, but it just, now they're in insane salary, and they're not a team going anywhere, right? They're one of the worst teams in the league. Yeah, LaMelo Ball has been out pretty much the whole season, but even with him, what are they? Are they a playoff team? I don't think so, personally. So they need to start making changes. They need to start moving around. So maybe you could get a Kelly Oubre, PJ Washington, and give up a first-round pick. Maybe you could work something out. And maybe instead of a Kelly Oubre, you get PJ and a Terry Rozier, right? That's something that could happen. Although I think the Lakers need the sizable wings more than they need a guy like Terry Rozier. Although I think Terry Rozier would be great, right? A scorer, play on the ball, play off the ball. But again, Charlotte could be an option. You also have San Antonio, You could get like a Jakob Poeltl and a Josh Richardson, or a Josh Richardson and Doug McDermott. You could get any combination of the two, right? I mean, the San Antonio Spurs have been linked to the Lakers since like the offseason, right? About Russell Westbrook and willing to take on Russell Westbrook's contract, but they wanted a first for that. Well, if they're willing to take Russ, maybe they would take Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn, and then the Lakers can work out a deal with San Antonio, get a Yaka and a Richardson, or maybe a Richardson and a Doug McDermott, whatever. It just depends on like what do the Lakers think that they need more. Do they need another center? And personally, I would rather have Jakob Poeltl over Miles Turner, and it's not because I think Yaka is better than Miles Turner. It's just Yaka is a player that doesn't need to start. Like, he's not going to complain. Like, if Miles Turner doesn't start, you don't think he's going to be upset about that? You don't think he's going to be mad? Or if, like, you know, you're in the playoffs and it's probably best for you to close with Anthony Davis at the 5, you know, like, do you think Miles Turner is going to be happy sitting on the bench? Stuff like that. Like, even in like the bubble year that, you know, people bring up. Well, we had Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, right? Yeah, but in the big crucial games, Anthony Davis started at the 5 and he closed at the 5. And Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee were fine sitting on the bench and being okay with that. Miles Turner's not going to be that guy. Jakob Poeltl, he's came off the bench for the Spurs, right? He's started, he's came off the bench, he's done a little bit of everything for the Spurs, never complains, never does anything. And I think that he doesn't provide the shooting that Miles Turner does, but he provides the passing, the low post threat, as well as just a defensive big that could really help come in, you know, relieve and spell Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis misses a game, Yaka come in and do that. Like, so I would look at that, and then you get a Josh Richardson who could be like our KCP this year, right? That could be hugely beneficial. That could be something Lakers could look at. Miles Turner or Buddy Hield, right? In the same breath. You wouldn't be able to get both, but you could get one or the other, right? So maybe, you know, the Pacers get to a point where they're like, okay, well, we're not winning a championship this year, and you know, let's unload a Buddy Hield, or let's unload a Miles Turner and get a first-round pick. Maybe there are talks and reports that Indiana might try to offer an extension to Miles Turner, but does Miles Turner want that? Does Miles Turner want to test free agency, or does he want to stay with the Indiana Pacers? I don't know. If at any point it looks like Miles Turner might end up leaving, do the Pacers say, hey, you know what, let's go make a trade, let's go make a deal just to get something for Miles Turner instead of losing him for nothing? It just gives them flexibility. So again, there are options. And then also Bojan Bogdanovic could still be in play at some point. You still have Evan Fournier, Cam Reddish. Those are guys that are linked right now to the Lakers, and the Knicks are heavily involved. Based on reports, the Knicks and the Lakers are the two teams that are most engaged right now in the trade market, in the trade conversation. Both teams are trying to look to improve and kind of turn their season around and turn their roster around. And the Knicks want to unload salary, right? They want to unload Evan Fournier and his contract. They have Cam Reddish that they're probably going to lose this season unless they get something for him. So there's options there. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Do you think the Lakers are going to be able to get a deal with those guys? Do you think that a first with Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn is enough to maybe get a deal? And if so, what deal would you want? Also, let me know, would you guys like a video for those that made it to this end? Would you like a video of me kind of like going through all the possible trades and kind of breaking down and giving my thoughts on each individual trade, you know, in one video? It'd probably be a long video. That's why I want to ask, but maybe kind of dissecting each trade and which ones I think are most realistic and a real possibility. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. So let me know down in the comment section below.